Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. This is where we talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all of the things that we experience as small business owners, come out the other side more knowledgeable, more experienced, more prone to success within their small business. We have an awesome network of people who share their story and teach us the skills and experiences that we need to be more successful entrepreneurs. So thank you very much for coming, Joyce. I appreciate you. Anybody that creates the time for myself and the audience, it really is very important to us. So I appreciate that very much. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Bailey. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share my story, however zigzagged it is. Uh, and my name is Joyce Hunter, and I am the executive director of a critical infrastructure cybersecurity think tank called Mission Critical. I am also the founder and the president of a data science camp that I created 10 years ago for underserved and underrepresented youth to talk about data science in the agriculture industry, energy. My tongue is getting stuck to the top of my mouth, and athletics. So that's what I do. The cybersecurity and critical infrastructure is extremely important. We concentrate on all 16 critical infrastructures, although we have special focus on healthcare, energy, water, and food and agriculture, because those are the ones that are being attacked these days, as you noticed from the news. But my main focus is getting the education to the students early enough. By the time most people get to college, they've already pretty much decided what they want to do and where they want to go. And if you're not in an area where cybersecurity and critical infrastructure or even data science or data analytics is talked about, those are not the kinds of things that you're going to consider majoring in once you get to college. So that is the primary reason. I was the deputy CIO and then the acting CIO at the Department of Agriculture when President Barack Obama came out with the Open Data Executive Order, which required all agencies, especially the 26 major agencies within the U.S. Areas of departments, they are to put all of their data in an open forum where entrepreneurs and scientists can get a hold of it and take information that they've gotten from FDA, maximize it with information that they got from Department of Agriculture, create an all new product or an all new solution, and then put it out there on the market. So it also increases entrepreneurship within the data science world. So when I was at the Department of Agriculture, I said, well, the only way we're going to really scale this is to create this camp. So I went to the CIO at the time, was Cheryl Cook. I shared with her the idea. We walked it downstairs to the Assistant Secretary for Administration. And actually, I wanted a STEM camp, science, technology, engineering, and math. And when we got downstairs to Dr. Parham, he said, well, since you're creating it at Department of Agriculture, add the A for agriculture. So that's what we did. So it became a STEAM camp, but a lot of people think A is for arts, and we do include a lot of arts in our class. We create models for the students to work on and to create these resilient energy types of buildings for agriculture. And we looked at buildings that we can create for sustainability. So we do create some kind of A for arts, but most of it is about the analytics, the science behind agriculture. Agriculture is no longer Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. It's a way for people to be able to use science to enhance the growth and production of food and food products and maintain its safety and resilience.
So tell me a
So
little bit
tell me a
about your
little bit
journey.
about
I
your.
know you used to hold some positions that are very unique. Tell me how you got to doing what you do now.
Well, like I said, I zigged and I zagged. I do not have a technology degree. My undergraduate degree is in sociology, and my MBA is in marketing. I worked at Hallmark Cards for about 2 years as part of an internship, and then I went to work for them full time. Then I had the opportunity to move to Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I joined Digital Equipment Corporation as a sales associate. Then I moved to New Hampshire and joined Lotus Development Corporation, where I helped work on the development of Lotus Notes with Ray Ozzie. And then actually that was one of the most fascinating positions that I had. I worked with Marriott International and Ernst and Young International in the deployment of Lotus Notes over 46 countries in 12 months. So that was an experience in
Wow.
itself. So I started out in sales. I went to software development, and then I got into project management, managing this global project for Lotus. After that, IBM bought Lotus and it wasn't fun anymore. So I went to Lawson Software, where they were just starting out in health information technology, uh, electronic health information technology, and they had a materials management program, and they needed someone to develop their strategic partnerships. And since I developed a strategic partnership with Ernst and Young and Marriott while I was at Lotus, I was the perfect choice for to come in and gather the rest of what they called the Big Six at that time: Coopers and Lybrand, Price
Mhm.
Waterhouse, Ernst and Young, Arthur Anderson, before Accenture. And so I worked on that program. And then when they were acquired, I moved on to Aptus. Notice I don't still don't have a technology degree, but what I am able to do is make that translation between business and IT, and bidirectionally. So I can actually take a problem. I start out with the end in mind and figure out exactly what does the person want? What does the company want? What does the organization want at the very end? And then work backwards from there and figure out what the best solution is for them in that particular scenario. So after Aptus, I went to Computer Science Corporation. When Computer Science Corporation laid our department off, I hung out my shingle for a while, and after about 4 years, I got a call on a weekday afternoon from the White House Office of Personnel asking me if I wanted to come work for President Obama. And that was the beginning. And I hadn't applied for or lobbied for or advocated for. Somebody saw what I was doing. I worked with a organization called Shire, and they were, after President Obama came out with the Affordable Care Act, Shire was going around to underserved and underrepresented physicians and communities and telling them exactly what the logistics were around the Affordable Care Act. And I was there to help the physicians understand how to take their paper records and turn them into electronic records so that they could get their reimbursements from CMS, Medicare, Medicaid. So that's how I got to. She recommended me, the president and the founder of Shire. Her name was Ruth Perot, and she recommended me for this appointment. And it's not what everybody thinks. You don't go in there telling them what you want. You go in and they set you up with a lot of different departments. I went to Commerce, I went to Department of State, I went to Agriculture, I went to a couple of other places. And then the one who puts up their hand first, that's where you go. So I ended up at Department of Agriculture, and I always say God laughs, man plan, God laughs. I grew up in West Philadelphia. I knew nothing about farms, hadn't been to one. The only experience I had with a farm animal is in the Philadelphia Zoo, where a goat chased me. So I was not very thrilled about going to Department of Agriculture, but I learned so much about how much they influence what we put in our mouths, truly dirt to table, everything and everything in between. So I fell in love with agriculture. I am fell in love with the dirt. And ever since then, I've been an advocate for safety. I've been an advocate for ensuring that we have the people necessary in order to do what we do at agriculture, which is take soil samples and make sure that the supply chain is intact. And particularly now that we have cybersecurity and food and agriculture as a critical infrastructure, we have to make sure that all the regulations are in place so that like our food is always safe and ready to eat and abundant.
So tell me, what's kind of been your superpower through all of these changes, right? Because you have experience with helping people solve large problems, and you've
Yes.
done that in a bunch of different areas and disciplines. So what's kind of been your superpower through this whole process?
It's all the same. It's all the same, whether it's a large problem or a small problem or a mid-sized problem. I seem to take the most difficult ones. When I was with Lotus Development Corporation, nobody wanted Ernst and Young. They were the most difficult client. Nobody within Lotus would take them on. Marriott was, in fact, the vice president of IT for Marriott. He ended up going over to FDA as the CIO. So you never know who you're going to meet along the way. So I became friends with him when he was the vice president of IT at Marriott. He then moved over to FDA. And then when I started doing federal government agencies, I walk into a room and there he is. So it always, if you're very honest and open with your clients and you tell them the path that you want to take them, and they can either take it or not. And it's all about being your integrity. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you are going to take on a large problem, take it on bite-sized chunks. Find out who you can align yourself with. A lot of times it's not always the size of the project. It's getting the coalition of the willing. At Department of Agriculture, it's made up of 27 agencies, staff offices, and mission areas, 100,000 people, more or less. And there are a lot of very large projects, but what we have to do is present the project, tell them why should they care? In every project, people either want to do it or not, and it's either for a constituent, which is the consumer of agriculture products, or it could be somebody who is on a program. All these tornadoes that we're having, all of the people who have lost everything, the only thing that they have is the benefits from the nutrition program. So they get information and they get the EBT card so they could go, and because banks are down, they're
Hmm.
they're they're not going to be able to supply their food. So it's very important that we have these programs available, and we have programs for new and beginning farmers. The When we went to the industrial revolution, uh, farmers went away, and a lot of time farming is hard work and very little margin. So we're trying to encourage the younger farmers, even if they're urban farmers, take that plot behind your house, that acre behind your house in the suburbs, and do something with it instead of just growing grass. So taking the projects and shrinking them down and asking, why do you care? uh, One of the things I ask the young people in the camp, if they choose a topic, if it's hunger and poverty, if it's climate instability, if it's looking for alternative sources of food, the first thing they need to do is ask, why do I care? Why am I interested in this topic? And then at the end of the camp, when they do their presentations, why should the audience care about what I'm talking about? That's the same thing in business. Why, when I am trying to convince somebody, why should they care about what I'm talking about? What benefit is it going to have to them? And how is it going to either help them have cost benefit or cost savings or cost avoidance?
So, what have been some of the obstacles along the way, right? Because it seems like navigating these solutions with all of these thousands and thousands of people, there's so many checks, there's so many boxes to check off. But you strike me as someone that likes is a doer. You know what I mean? They're like, truthfully, my generation of people lacks um the intuition to just do things sometimes, and it seems like there's things that are always done in preparation. So what was that process like for you?
Um, early, back in my digital equipment days, they drilled into us. They didn't pay us commissions or bonuses or anything like that, because they wanted us to spend as much time as we possibly could with finding out what the client's ills were. What motivated them, what challenged them, and if there was a solution that we had that could address those problems. Sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes we didn't have a solution, and the person that we were talking to would appreciate that if we were very honest with them and we told them, you know, this solution is not going to work. maybe the solution that you should consider. But you know what, 2 3 years later they will come back to us. Over at the Department of Agriculture, they didn't we were chartered to do this open data. So like I said, President Obama came out with an open data executive order, and for everybody's education, when they say that the president comes out with an executive order, that executive order comes with no money. So you've got to figure out how to do it with no money. So you get really creative. And that's what I mean by a coalition of the willing. Our chief data officer and we sat around and we put out this big notice about how we were excited about it, but nobody else was. We had to make quarterly reports to the Office of Management and Budget on our data sets. They would tell us what the data sets they were looking for, and we would have to report every quarter. Well, we got cats, dogs, and rabbits uh, in our reporting. And so we sat down and decided, okay, so what is Department of Agriculture about? We're a mission oriented agency. So that means that we would have to make it so that it was mission oriented for them to respond. So the first time we said, okay, let's make it a water opportunity. So all the agencies that were involved about water, like Natural Resources Conservation Agency, looking at water and the problems that they have within farms and water, we got so many data sets. We got data sets from then on if we would make it thematic. So the data sets had, so why should they care? Because we were bringing to light a lot of their issues and their problems. And so that's why I always ask the question from then on, why should they care? If we're amplifying some of their solutions and some of their problems so that we can get some additional partnerships and collaborations.
So, what has it been like to make that commitment, knowing what your initiatives are and the positions that you've been put in over the years to make changes to the way things happen around us to um, keep us more apt to be aware of our future as humans? What has that journey been like for you as committing to wearing all these different hats? You've worn the entrepreneur hat, the marketer hat. Obviously, you got your degree for you got your degree for a reason, right? You utilize those skill sets as well, and you've had to articulate this mission to so many different people over time that you've really had to commit to wearing and um, taking on the responsibility of all these things that you're undertaking, right? And I think a lot of people that we're talking to are entrepreneurs, and you don't realize the amount of things that you have to be willing and capable of doing in order to promote success. So, what has that journey been like for you for committing to being, wearing all of these different hats, making all of these things different, all of these different things happen, all these different cogs in the machine?
You have to be chief cook and bottle washer. You have to just jump in there whenever it's needed and necessary. There's no such thing when you're an entrepreneur as kind of sitting back, folding your arms and letting the worker bees do it. No, you are the worker bee. I am the worker bee. And so I have to ensure that every single checkpoint is made active. When I went to the Department of Agriculture, that was a new position, Deputy CIO for Policy and Planning. That's the position that I was appointed to. And then when Cheryl Cook retired, I became the acting CIO. But this was an area where they were looking at putting the Information Resources Management Group that manages all the IT assets because healthcare.gov had gone belly up. And the Office of Management and Budget wanted a way in which they could track and keep account of and make the agencies accountable for the IT dollars that they were spending. That was one of the most difficult things because in an agency that large, nobody really wanted to report what they were doing with the money that they were getting from Congress. Nobody did. But, we had, like I said, you have to get a coalition of the willing. So the Office of Management and Budget insisted that we set up these quarterly meetings. And then we had to, the agencies would have to come to us and tell us what they were doing, what they weren't doing, why they were doing it, and what outcome they were expecting. and what the life cycle was of the application or the IT solution that they were currently using. But we would still always have to go, I still always have to go back to, why is it important for them? One of the reasons it was important for them is that they didn't want OMB coming to visit them and asking a lot of detailed questions. It's better to come, like I said, mom and dad, it's better to come to the first person instead of having to go upstairs to the next person to explain yourself. With the camp, it's a challenge because getting young people to come to a data science camp in the middle of the summer. How many teenagers, 14 to 18 years old, want to be sitting in a college class studying about agriculture science? You have to make it interesting. You have to make it, you have to tell them about the drones and about self-driving vehicles. I mean, the first day they come in, and this is every single camp, most of the kids in the summer camp, actually, after the first year, they beg to come back for a second year because they want to learn something new and they want to add on to it. And they see how this is going to be able to benefit them once they get to college. But the first year, oh no. They sit there, their arms are folded, their eyes are rolling in their head. And I start talking about drones, and I start talking about how drones help look at the vegetation. And without that, they wouldn't be able to go to Safeway. These kids have never been to a farm. I take them to a farm, get them talking about pollinators and why butterflies and bees are important, and actually picking crops. At the University of the District of Columbia, they have the largest rooftop garden of any urban campus in the United States. So you've got to make it experiential for them. They've got to be able to see it, feel it, and live it. And that's any entrepreneur. If you can't tell the story, if you can't explain to them why it's important, you will definitely fail.
Absolutely. For people that are interested in getting in touch with you, how do they find you? How do they also find information about the camps that you hold?
Okay. The camp is DC Steam Camp, all one word, at gmail.com. Gmail.com. So that's how you get in touch with me for the camp. As far as email, for the website, it's datasteamcamp.org. That's datasteamcamp.org for the website, so students can apply and get some idea about what the camp is about. For the mission critical, it is mission-critical.org. That's how you get in touch with us for cybersecurity and critical infrastructure.
Well, I appreciate you sharing with us today. Your story is very interesting. What's been commanded of you in your different jobs and opportunities is a very unique thing. And it just goes to reinforce the idea even more so that if you focus on learning from the skills and experiences of people around you and adding more of those things to your tool belt, that you'll be a more successful business person, helper of people, problem solver, people person. All of those things are added to by, sorry, lawnmower. Yeah, it just adds to what you do in droves in your regular life. You know what I mean? And you're a wonderful example of that. So if you have anything else to leave the people with, please, the platform is yours. Anything that you want to, final thoughts. But I wanted to say I appreciate you coming. I want people to really think about the overall problems that your disciplines have proposed. You know what I mean? Is that we need to get the information in these different areas to people as soon as possible before they've made the decision about what the shape of their life looks like, because they're critical infrastructure for a reason. So I appreciate you sharing what you've shared. If you have anything else to leave the people with, please feel free, but burn the ship.
Absolutely. Never stop learning, ever. And don't be afraid. All of my jobs, like I said, I zigzag through. Do not have imposter syndrome. Walk through. If the door opens, it's meant for you. Walk through it and take control. And the last thing I would have to say is I'm a Trekkie, long time from the very beginning. Live long and prosper.